Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the singers, the singers only. The singers only. Hey, you guys, it's Kristal Cherelle from Indie Artist School. Welcome to the Singer's Arsenal. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 steps to singing R&B. Now, it doesn't matter if you're talking about traditional R&B like Stevie Wonder, or if you want to sing more modern R&B like Summer Walker. So that being said, I do realize there are some differences between traditional R&B and modern R&B, but I'm going to go over that in these next few steps. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do in order to be better at singing R&B is to familiarize yourself with traditional R&B artists. It can go even further back to soul and gospel, which is the true foundation. You think about rhythm and blues, you can't really talk about R&B without visiting blues artists like Ray Charles. And like I said, Stevie Wonder, you could listen to Aretha Franklin. These are going to really help you understand the true fundamentals of singing R&B. Now, learning that, you can continue to go through time and listen to like 90s R&B and listen to Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Monica, Brandy. And then you can gradually keep going until you get into modern R&B. What happens is if you find an artist you like and you listen to them all the time and only them, and you're only inspired by that one artist, you're going to end up sounding a lot like that artist. At least that's most people's goal. But here's the deal. We don't need 2 hers. Everyone is going to have an influence, but your goal is to make it your own. And the best way to make it your own is by having a wide array of influences that shape you as a vocalist. Okay, step number 2, you want to make sure that you learn the fundamentals of singing. Now, I talked about this a bit in my other episodes, but all in all, you need to make sure you have a strong foundation for your vocals because R&B is, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit more of a challenging genre because it's really about not only communicating your emotions, but also showing what your voice can do, especially traditional R&B. There are 3 important things that you need to know as a vocalist to be able to be a better R&B vocalist. Step number 1, you need to make sure that you have a good understanding of your breath control. That means knowing how to breathe from your diaphragm and also projecting your diaphragm and being able to control how long you project notes, which we talked about in our belting episode, as well as the fundamentals of singing video that I posted on my YouTube. Step number 2 is going to be vocal placement. Vocal placement is really going to help you understand the different registers of your voice and allow you to be able to sing more fluidly throughout your song. And another good important reason for vocal placement is so that you can control your tone, which is very important in pretty much every genre of music. Okay, and the third step is making sure that you have a really strong sense of pitch accuracy and speed. This is important for when you're singing vocal runs and also if you're singing songs with quick bursts of rhythm, which is really prevalent in modern R&B. So the way you can develop all of these steps that I told you, breath control, the vocal placement, the pitch accuracy, and the speed of your diction can all be honed during vocal exercises and through regular vocal lessons. If you want to get vocal lessons with me, you can go ahead and visit calendly.com/Indie Artist School. That's calendly.com/Indie Artist School. Okay, so there are also things that you need to know to really understand what makes R&B R&B. There are actually 4 elements that make R&B R&B. But before I get into that, I want to invite you to support this podcast by donating a monthly subscription of anywhere between $1 and $10 by going to anchor.fm/The Singer's Arsenal/support. That's anchor.fm/The Singer's Arsenal/support. Okay, let's get into this. Step number 3, learn these 4 elements that make R&B R&B. Number 1, you need to learn how to connect with your emotions. This is one of those things that only happens by you listening to music and really getting in touch with the lyrics and the story and how that can relate to yourself. You want to make sure that you can connect and convey your emotions through your voice and your lyrics. Number two, you want to make sure that you learn vocal runs and know when to use them. Vocal runs is one of those things that are really awesome. Once you got it, it's really easy to be tempted to want to sing vocal runs all the time. You want to make sure that they are a nice decoration to the song rather than a distraction. And the way you can do that is by making sure that you only use them between the second verse and the end of the song. You can use them sparingly in the beginning, but we need to have a strong understanding of what the song sounds like and make sure that we can understand the words so we can really be engaged with step number one, which is connecting your emotions with the lyrics. Number three, you want to make sure you have precise pitch accuracy. I can't stress this enough. This is important whether you're doing traditional R&B or modern R&B, because in traditional R&B, you need to be able to project notes with accuracy and jump. A lot of times there are big leaps between notes. Also, there are plenty of vocal runs, and vocal runs is really about being able to hit a series of notes accurately and quickly. And again, this can be improved with vocal exercises. Another reason why it's important to learn how to have a more accurate pitch is because nowadays in modern R&B, there is a lot of pitch correction. Now, I know this is an area of debate for a lot of people. Some people say no auto-tune, blah, 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 blah. But here's what I got to say about that. When you're in the studio, the more accurate your pitch is, the better the pitch correction will sound. If you've ever heard that, I guess the T-Pain sound, the Travis Scott sound, and I'm not dissing any of these artists, I think they're great. If that's not the style you're going for though, then you're gonna need to make sure that you have a natural, accurate pitch so that it doesn't sound too artificial, because it's really difficult to make it precise without it sounding a little bit robotic, especially if it's really far off. Okay. So pitch accuracy really helps you have a more natural sound, even if your engineer does use a pitch correction on your voice. Now, there are some ways that they can make sure it still sounds natural, but it's going to take a lot of work on the back end and take you like 10 times longer to record a song. So I highly recommend that you develop your own voice first before you ever go into the studio. Okay. Another important aspect that makes R&B is having a strong sense of rhythm. It's rhythm and blues. I'm going to say this. It's even more important now because R&B is heavily influenced by hip hop, and hip hop has a lot of complexities in it rhythmically. So there's going to be a lot of cadences. Instead of da da da, you'll be da 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 da, and things like that, and you'll repeat it over and over again, or you'll change it up, da 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 da. That's a different cadence, right? So that's what I mean by rhythm. So when you have a strong sense of rhythm, you can play around with different cadences on the same beat, okay? The same instrumental, the same music, okay? So that really helps you be a more strong rhythm and blues singer, especially now in 2020. Okay, guys, so the next step that's important for you to be able to be a better R&B singer is to sing R&B covers of the artists you enjoy. This really helps you understand what it is you really like about that artist, and you can also see which parts are challenging for you so that you know what it is you need to work on to improve your voice. Now, in the beginning, you're going to be imitating them, and that's totally fine. But what you want to do is get so acquainted with what they do and acquainted with what you're able to do and build your skill enough to where you can make their song your own when you do a cover. A lot of things that people do to make a song their own is sometimes they'll change the lyrics, kind of like freestyle hip hop. Like I keep telling you guys, modern R&B is heavily influenced by hip hop. If you listen to covers that people are dropping, you'll notice, especially if they're a major artist covering an older artist or sampling another artist, they change the lyrics up completely. And they might even use the same melody, but they might change the rhythm and the words. So that's one way to embellish. Another way to embellish, if you want to embellish in a more traditional style, in the spaces between the phrasing, you can add an ad lib, such as a vocal run, or you can belt something that wasn't normally belted. And you can do a combination of all of these, and that really would make you an amazing cover artist, which is well on your way to having really strong music of your own. And last but not least, this one is really for anyone out there who wants to write R&B music. Or if you're collaborating with a writer for R&B music, you'll know what it is you need to look for. So there's really one major thing that your song needs to have, and that is a strong sense of a story and emotion, an emotional story with a beginning, middle, and end throughout the song. Now, the way you break that up in your verses and in your hook, and the way you use different cadences and melodies and give yourself space for ad libs or whatever, that's up to you as a writer. But you've got to make sure your song has an emotional story. It doesn't have to be about love even, a lot of people are kind of on the fence about how they feel about a modern R&B. They're like, nobody's singing about love anymore and blah, blah, blah. Like, I understand, but maybe that's just not how a different generation is feeling right now. I'm going to say something that's a little bit, I guess, controversial depending on your beliefs, but I kind of think that they're probably just being more honest. If they're not happy, they're saying they're not happy, or if they feel some way about a situation, then they express that. I also think that there's a lot of ways you can interpret emotions, but emotions are not always just I love you and I long for you. They could be anger, they could be happiness, they could be sadness. Just make sure that there's an emotional story and that you can relate to it so that you can convey those emotions through the story and connect with your listeners, okay? So that's really important as a writer for R&B music. I myself, as a writer and vocalist, I have so many different influences that I've made songs that are a little bit more neo-soul. I made songs that are more modern R&B, leaning really hip-hop, and I've got songs that are really traditional R&B. They're ballads, and the lyrical content is all over the place. Sometimes it's about, being determined and achieving your goals, and sometimes it's about love. As a writer, you want to be versatile, but you want to find your voice as well. So those are the main things you have to do no matter what style you choose to go on. Make sure there's an emotional story. Okay, so remember, let's go over these again. You want to listen to the greats before you. That's step number 1. Step number 2, you need to learn the fundamentals of singing. Okay. Step number 3, learn the 4 elements of R&B, which is emotions, vocal runs, pitch accuracy, rhythm, and belting, especially in more traditional R&B. Okay, and step number 4, sing R&B covers of artists that you like. Step number 5, when writing R&B, make sure that you're telling an emotional story with a beginning, middle, and end. And make sure you include elements of a complex rhythm so that you can make it more modern, or make sure that you include enough space for embellishment like vocal runs and belting. If you want to learn more stuff like this, go ahead and visit my website, indie-artist.teachable.com. That's indie-artist.teachable.com. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the singer's arsenal.